Hey everyone, it is the hours. I'm Mark. I'm joined by Tyler, and we got a little different episode today. We're going to go full mailbag. We've been neglecting the mailbag, and we want to make sure that we are serving our members in both of our communities. So, one is our paid exclusive community where our SAVI members have access to all of our courses, community, and consulting. And then we have another community where we have all of our courses. And if you buy a course, you get instant access to our community where you're now engaged with other members who have bought a course and they're working through it and you work through it together. And if you don't have a course and you just want to get into the community and join like-minded coaches, $7 a month. That's like, can't even do the math, but less than $1 a day, obviously. So two ways to get involved, and we're going to answer questions from both. Tyler, always enjoy talking basketball with you. What's the latest?
I just typed into X. We're recording an episode of The Hours right now. Ask me anything. Go. Let's see how responsive they are. Also, this is the debut of the Savvy Neon sign. Thank you for ordering that, Mark. I'll get a better camera angle when I get this working space fully set up. Two, three. It is a beautiful 67 degrees this morning in Phoenix, Arizona, with a light breeze. Very refreshing.
I love it. I know it was hot
It
yesterday.
was hot yesterday.
I just typed the same question into Chat GPT. We'll see what it comes up with. But
Ooh,
let's
nice.
start with a question from our actual community. This one came in yesterday. I'm going to ask you this one. Zone offense without size. So, Coach Harvard is asking, he sees a lot of stuff on the internet, whether it's through Savvy or other resources, that there's always offenses where you have a porch player or a post player. What do you do when you just have, let's call them five guards out there?
Zone offense without size. Whenever someone asks a question, I really like to examine what's behind the question and see if there is a limiting belief or a misconception that needs to be addressed before we try to answer the question. It's like a contaminant in the water. Most of us have blind spots or contamination in our thinking, and we can think way more clearly, ask better questions, and even have a better chance of applying new knowledge if we remove that contamination. So, that question actually, in my opinion, has a bit of contamination. Zone offense without size. I think that the contamination is a limiting belief and almost like a victim mindset already of I don't have size. And so I'm limited in what I can do and like seeing it as a negative. And when you do that, you're always going to be kind of looking over at the grass is greener. Well, oh, I really love this set if only I had size. Oh, I'd love to play through a high post if only I had size. Oh, I'd love to crash the offensive rebounds if only I had size. Whereas, like, I don't even know which coach asked that. And I think many coaches asked that. I would say remove that excuse and remove that limiting belief from your planning and from your execution because it's always going to be the crutch. It's going to be the first place that you go to as an excuse. Ah, got killed on the boards last night, guys, because we don't have size. And then you don't go and solve your rebounding issues. So, I mean, that question, I would coach the coach into just saying, what zone offense should we run? Regardless of size. Like you're playing your five best players, taking everything into account. And what do you believe about offense? Okay, here's the second limiting belief for that one zone offense. No, you run offense. You don't run zone offense or man offense, you run offense, right? Okay, so what player development skill sets do you need? What actions do you need in your offense? What principles of play do you need to improve? That might help you more against zone defenses. But we at Savvy do not believe that you have a different offense for man or zone. We don't believe that. We believe that you teach offense. And the only thing that might change based on your opponent would be your shape or the action, the series of actions, or the family of actions that you're running. And you might adjust your personnel, but you don't change your offense. So I think that the question that is asked was great because we identified two limiting beliefs that will get the most traction out of it. But then just to answer a question, go five out.
Yeah. Or okay, I'll agree with all of that, and I'll say and put players where their roles are best suited to play from. And that's the way we looked at it. I mean, we believed in every player, every skill. And I also believed in something you said is we're just going to play our best five or the five that play the best together. You also said change your shape. A lot of coaches that we work with, they might run like five out race in space or drive in space. I think you have to change your shape to give you some type of interior presence. So let's say you are five out, we got to have some kind of cutting or flashing, dancing to put pressure on the paint. It's where we want to ultimately get the ball. We got to create some kind of gravity there. So who's going to be there? My worst shooters, maybe get them off the perimeter, or a lot of people would say put your best playmaker in the middle. So maybe that's the case if you have somebody that's just a really good facilitator, where it's going to be really dangerous from the high post, or somebody, who's your best scorer, who's your strongest player. Even if they're not tall, you're probably going to have a strongest player. Put them in the porch. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. But I also would say like a limiting belief is this coach is probably thinking in terms of positions instead of roles or strengths of their players. And you may not have a post player, but you have somebody that's better on the inside than they are the outside. So you could keep the same shape as if you did have a quote unquote post player. Just put that player down there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's in our race and space offense. I love cutting from behind the zone, but not up. I like down and across. So a cut up would be like a traditional flash up from the baseline, flashing to the high post or the nail or the elbow or whatnot. I don't like that. I don't like catching, because if you do catch with a small advantage in the middle of the zone with your back to the basket, it's really hard to play off the catch, because you have to square up, and really the only quick pass you see is one back out, relieving pressure on the defense. So like I really like a dive. A dive would be a cut down, like if the ball gets to the baseline or the short corner or the corner, then I like a dive cut into the middle of the zone. So then you can catch it and play with your advantage, right? You can play at that domino, or a cut across. So when the ball would be on the left wing, you actually have the right wing or right action spot, regardless, depending on what your shape is, that's actually going to then cut across, or dance is what I call that one, dance into the middle, because even then you're more able to attack that small advantage either with the dribble or with the pass. And I'll say this, I hate just sitting someone in the high post that doesn't ever move. I just hate that, so don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, you close space that way. Now okay, I'll give you one caveat. Just in my thinking, is if a zone is really poor at covering the middle, and if we think we can get the ball there really easily, then put them there. Most of the time, zones are designed like where do we not want the ball is the middle. So free that space up, allow somebody to flash in there. I don't mind the low to high flash as much as you do, or what did you call
Mhm.
it? A
Yeah, a
flash
cut up, or
up
yeah,
the
we call it
floor.
flash cut up. Yeah.
But I will agree with this. We've had way more success going low to high than high low. So
Mhm.
instead of feeding the high post and me dumping it down to the
Yes.
low post, I actually like throwing it to the porch, and the porch throwing it to somebody flashing in the middle of the zone.
Yeah.
That's to
Yeah.
me higher percentage than high low.
Agreed. And before one introduced cuts into the middle of a zone, for me, I would actually introduce five out ghost screens, hunts into the middle of the zone. I think that plays on the skill sets of most players better. Now your team might be unique, but like tight quarters passing really, really quickly and finding space, I find that across the basketball world is less developed than players driving off the dribble. And so a zone defense is a great decision. I actually really find if you go five out, you're going to have a numerical advantage outside of the 3 point line. And then ghost screens in particular against a zone allow you to kick back to the ghost screener with a small advantage and usually punch or hunt a gap off the dribble, which then will collapse the zone and get you the dominoes catches that you're looking for on the perimeter as well for wide open sevens. That's like the quickest way that I've found without teaching players tight quarters passing, which they don't train as much, to just utilize existing skill sets.
All right, I'll put a bow on this one. You said something good about like your personnel is never going to be ideal. Florida just won a national championship. I'm sure they didn't have their wish list of personnel. Whoever wins the NBA championship, shout out Oklahoma City Thunder in about a month here. They have a salary cap. They don't have their ideal roster, so you just make the best of what you have, right? Um, but principles of play stay the same. Shapes will adjust. So if you look at this spacing, ball movement, player movement, timing of your actions, then I'll go one more shot selection. I would just limit player movement against the zone. Pick your ideal shape, get to your spots, prioritize ball movement. We talked last night. We're taking all of our members to a 4 week deep dive on player development. Tyler actually led us off recapping catch reads from last week and talked about spacing and ball movement is really what we're prioritizing. That's how we get more and more dominoes to fall, is typically by moving the ball. What doesn't allow us to move the ball if we're not in the right spots, if we're not spaced properly off the ball. So I would teach that first and foremost, because again, we run offense with the same principles, whether it's man or zone. So start with space, +1 to ball movement, and then Tyler threw us an action go screen. I like that. Here's another thing I'll say on zone offense. You're almost always playing at small advantage against zone offense. I think zone offense is can be intimidating, or not as coaches aren't as comfortable teaching zone offense as they might be man offense. But zone offense, think about this: somebody's almost always in cover 2, meaning I've got the wing in the short corner, or I've got the top of the key and the wing. So it doesn't take much to get in the dominoes. I would reframe your thinking. Instead of paint touches, just crack the shell. If
Yeah.
you crack the shell, you're likely drawing 2 zone defenders. So the go screen, it's not like you even have to create a ton of dribble penetration off of it. You're likely going to create 2 defenders on the ball, get you in dominoes, and then you're expanding dominoes from there.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Florida real quick. Florida didn't have the ideal personnel. I watched Florida play 2 games this season, the Final Four game and the national championship. And I mean, of all the, wonderful things they did as far as play hard, crash the offensive boards really well, protected the rim really well. They did a lot of good things, right? They competed, they fought, a lot of good things. I hated their personnel. I mean, I did not. I from team construction, I was not impressed with the personnel, but they found a way to win with it. I mean, I felt like they had like 8 7-footers that just blocked shots and got offensive rebounds and passed the ball the moment they touched it, with one person that could actually create. When anybody else dribbled, I was scared, and like very limited outside shooting actually, and yet they still won. I don't know. What was your take on the personnel? I only watched 2 games.
I didn't watch them a ton this year. In fact, I didn't watch a ton of the later stages of the tournament because I was in the
Okay.
middle of a move, and I still
Yeah.
haven't set my TV up. So I was watching on my iPad while doing things around the house trying to get settled. But I don't disagree. I mean, like Walter Clayton Jr.,
Is Walter
playmaker.
Clayton Jr. going to be a good pro?
I don't know.
I don't
Not
know.
and I don't say that as like, oh, he hadn't convinced me. It's like I haven't seen him a ton.
Yeah. I mean, definitely not afraid of the moment, but like I would actually say I think he's a backup point guard in the NBA. We'll find out.
It's fair, like a maybe even like a Mike Conley.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Like,
Mike Conley would be a ceiling.
yeah, could starter, but probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a perennial all-star or anything like that. Yeah. Very interesting. That's enough about college basketball personnel. Let's go to another question, I suppose. T. Bostic. Transition roles. If you don't have a 5 and you don't want to send someone to the short corner, I think this is related a little bit. Uh, what do you do with them?
Easy. I would go just two-sided break, and
Can you talk to everybody about that a little bit more?
yeah. So two-sided break. I mean, think traditional offense, which is again the lens that this coach is probably looking at it through. Unless this was a grok question, you're sending 3 to the baseline. You got your rim runner, you got your 2 players to the corner. If you take, and you can run the two-sided break with a rim runner. Actually, I just made a bunch of updates to the drive and space course in our classroom, and one of the videos was how to run the two-sided break in drive and space with a rim runner. But we're going to remove that rim runner. I would now play with what I would call 3 runners. Actually, this is really cool. This goes to the next question I was going to ask you. So we'll just keep this transition rolls. Let's call them the locks. Those are getting to the corners. Those would be for me runners. Like when the ball goes through the net or in a change of possession, you're a runner. Your job is to race and go. The third player instead of running the rim is just going to pick a side. Some people that run the two-sided break always like for it to be opposite of the ball. the way I coach is like, let's just go wide open. Let's just go as principled as possible, as least amount of rules as possible. I went to a private Catholic school, so rules are not welcome. So let's eliminate rules. And I would say seek the nearest sideline. I don't want players cutting the floor to find their spot. It is change of possession, nearest sideline, run wide, and then run deep. So you have two players going to the corner. The third player that doesn't win the race to be one of the first locks is now just going to trail on what we call the two side, because we have two players playing there. And that's going to give you an opportunity for some early opposite pitch aheads to your quote unquote two side trail there. So we like for our full court and our half court alignments to match. If we're running the two sided break without a rim runner, I'm going to assume that we're five out in the half court. So now we can seamlessly flow. We've got our three runners, two corners, the two sided break, and then our two, what I would call the two rackers. In racing space, we'd have a racker and a dragon. This is what the next question is going to be, but they would fill our action spot. So we're flowing seamlessly into our shape from full court to half court.
Okay, what do you think of this? And I don't know if you've got a diagram, a court diagram tab open, if you wouldn't mind opening it to show them. This is what I've been playing around with recently with our transition roles where we go with a wide spot. I have also, and not by design, but just by it's happened, I've traditionally tried to teach the wide spot to get opposite the ball. And just based on new players, limited practice time, we haven't really gotten to that much and it hasn't been coached much. So what's happening is they're just running to the nearest wide spot. So yeah, if you just let's say we arrive in shape and we're five out, we have got a wide spot on the ball side. So, whatever, 50, it feels like more than 50% of the time because everybody wants the ball. I don't know. But it seems like when I don't designate the wide spot to get opposite the ball, it seems like they're on the ball side more than half the time. So let's go ahead and throw the five over on the wide spot on the one side.
You
Perfect.
know
Okay.
what's interesting, real fast?
Yeah.
We didn't designate, but I would say 75% of the time, our wide spot or stretch was opposite of the ball. So interesting that y'all's are actually finding the ball
Yeah.
side.
Well, ours are youth players and they just want the ball so bad and their parents are
Mm.
screaming at them, get the ball.
There's a
So
magnet in there.
there's a magnet. There's a magnet on that thing. Anyway, that's how we're arriving. So here's what I have said now is we're not teaching them to go opposite the ball. We're now teaching the same thing that you did, which is just get wide, get to that nearest wide spot wherever you are. But here's what we are teaching. And this is, again, we don't differentiate between transition offense and half court offense. When we have the ball, we are on offense. And so this is how we play. If you're wide ball side burn, if you're wide ball side burn, so we arrive in shape, maybe the ball crosses the street, in front of half court, whatever. We arrive this way. Maybe the ball's passed here. It happens at any time with any body throughout the possession. Ball goes to one, five immediately burns,
Are they
exits.
filling long
They're
corner?
filling
Or
all the way out to the corner. Three's lifting, right? And that has actually created some really good motion and movement and sets us up for Rose series, right? Fingers, and all of a sudden we're attacking a triple gap off of that. And it's almost like a double draft drive because you're drafting the five who's kind of pulled their defender out, and inevitably their defender becomes the low man. The five becomes the low man, but they don't stop right in the smile because of the movement. They tend to be more aware of that cut and get dragged outside the smile, so it removes the low man as well. So that's something that I would actually teach, right? Which is wide ball side burn, and that's in transition and the half court, and it creates more space for any of our Rose series stuff.
I'm gonna ask a question here, and then I've got just a few notes on what you said. So let's say four comes off this fingers cut, one's going to finish their cut, which means we're going to start bumping.
Yeah,
And let's say four pitches, we get the early easy, what we taught last night, and pitches to two in the corner, and now we get the ball going up and over. So ball goes up, it goes over. One would now burn.
one would burn.
Love it. I
Yep.
like that. Okay, so a couple things that I like about it is one, you said we don't differentiate half court offense from full court offense, right? The moment you get the ball, you're playing offense. There does not need to be a separation. I use this comparison a lot, just soccer. Like to me, soccer doesn't have like, and I don't know anything about soccer. Maybe they do. Soccer coaches, you can at me or whatever. But there's not like, all right, we're going to run this offense until we get across midfield. Then we're running this offense, right? They're just trying to score or possess the ball the moment they have it. I love this wide burn because you're cutting not to clog, you're cutting to actually create space. And then I wrote it down before you said it. You're manipulating the low man as well. So you're changing who the low man is. You're getting some backside exchange, which is what coaches are all. Actually, it's a question that I've gotten a lot is how do we manipulate the backside? Which I like that our savvy coaches are starting to like progress in their thinking of. All right, we got the floor spaced. We've got our actions. We're creating advantages. Now, how do we get more of those advantages? Maybe that is manipulating the backside. But I always start from a place of space. Like if you're not spacing the floor to standard, I wouldn't add anything. It's spacing first, and then everything follows and flows from there.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that our savvy coaches are getting more sophisticated. So, as far as our members, we've got about 360 coaches right now that we're working with. And many of them now we've been working with for multiple years. It is amazing to see the progression of coaches. I mean, we have all seen it. We've seen coaches that stay the same for 20 years in coaching. That just doesn't happen in our savvy coaching community. It's amazing. I mean, I'm thinking of specific names and faces right now from when they came in. Like, what is conceptual offense? We ran whatever, Like, I don't even know how to teach this. I feel so overwhelmed. I feel so uncomfortable. To now, they're asking these really sophisticated questions in just 1 to 2 years. It's just like amazing shift in growth. And so I'm just so proud of all of the coaches that have like been willing to step outside their comfort zone and get savvy.
Yeah, I've got one that comes to mind. I'm going to shout him out. Jake Nannon is he's in Nebraska, and he got his first head coaching job, became a member, went through our courses, and the first time I saw film of his team, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, wow, this, because you don't know, right? They're asking questions. Unless you see film of their team, you don't know what level they're at or how they're implementing and how far they've come. It was amazing to see what he got accomplished with his high school team in 1 year. And now just to see the level that he's taken his team, he's a great share in our community. If you're a savvy member, I'm sure you've seen his threads in the community. If you're not a savvy member, if and you join, I would just search for his stuff. He's always posting clips of his team. So really appreciative. He's a great example of what it is to be a savvy member. Is like you're going to get a lot of things, but we also love when our coaches give a lot to and add to the community because Tyler and I are just part of the community, right? We're just like members in the community. We learn. We're obviously sharing the game as well, but I'd say we learn just as much from our members as well.
Yeah, this might be, I would like to, if you would allow me. So I wrote up a little blurb of what it means to be a savvy coach, what it means to be a savvy parent, what it means to be a savvy player, so people can find and define an identity in those things. So I would love to just read and share real quick my most recent iteration of what it like means to be a savvy coach. We talk about it all the time, like our savvy coaches, the savvy coaches, this community of coaches that believe these things and talk this way. And so this is, I would love to share this as I think there are many people who do listen to this that maybe are not a part of our savvy coaching membership. Maybe you want to know more about what it's about, or maybe you just want to be like, hey, is this for me? Does this describe me? So I'm gonna go ahead and read this. I'm gonna post it on X as well. What it means to be a savvy coach. You coach with clarity and not control. You don't script every step, you shape decisions. You don't micromanage, you empower. You're not building robots, you're building players who can think, feel, and flow. Players who read the floor, play fast, and adjust in real time. Savvy coaches teach the game, not just plays. They coach concepts, not control. They build confident, connected, clever players who can go. Savvy coaches know it's bigger than basketball. We care more about the person than the player. We use the game to teach character, grit, discipline, humility, and resilience. because those qualities will last longer than any stat line. Every player we coach deserves dignity, respect, and love. God has a plan for every player that walks in the gym, and we're here to help them grow on and off the court. We want practice to be the best part of their day. We celebrate more than we criticize 6-1. We don't joystick players. We teach, we trust, we empower. This is modern basketball. Player led, tough minded, fun, fast, and free. We're not chasing perfection. We're building trust through reps for readiness. We give ownership and demand accountability. We lead with standards and not rules. We teach with questions. Coaching's a craft, not a checklist. Savvy coaches aren't X and O people. We're culture architects. We don't need the credit. We want growth. And we know that when the players take over, we've done it right. So that's a savvy coach. I've been working on that. We'll continue to work on it. It's a work obviously in progress. Is that all it is? But I mean, when I first started Savvy, I think it's over 3 years ago now. I didn't know that that's what a savvy coach was. I just kind of knew that I believed coaching could be more than what it is. But over the last 3.5 years, and then Mark, through partnering with you, we've continued to build what it means to be a savvy coach. And so I think that's a better description than I had 3.5 years ago. So we'll keep working on it.
Yeah, that was really good.
Thank you.
I had the same thing too. Is like when we were before we partnered, I had this like vision for what I wanted to help coaches do,
Hmm.
and I didn't put it as eloquently as you did, but the thought that just came to mind is like I want coaches to be equipped to just tackle anything that comes up. Like, oh, we need to face zone defense. Oh, okay. Well, I know how to do that because I'm a savvy coach. Or this parent just reached out and wrote an email. Well, I know how to handle that. I know how to address this because I'm a savvy coach. So just confidence, clarity, and capabilities is what we want to give you. So, and if you are that coach that Tyler just described, you're gonna not only be successful on and off the court, but you'll be really fulfilled too because you're doing it the right way.
Yeah, that's good. What's our next question?
Let's stay with this is kind of transition, but also just roll. I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. Actually,
Yeah.
the question came through is two rackers or one racker. Because in race and space, we teach racker and dragon. In drive in space, and this is just based on my experience running offense, is I've always just played with two rackers, and I think this is a good time to just offer some clarity. So if you're watching on YouTube, I've got 1 and 4 in the action spots. Numbers don't really matter. We coach through roles instead of positions, but I'll talk a little bit about how I arrived at the two racker system and why I run it, and then you can talk more about racker dragon. And honestly, it doesn't matter which one you pick because you're defining roles anyway. But the way this all developed for me is I was a motion coach, and because I coached what I knew, and most coaches just coach what they know. And as I started learning new things, dribble drive started to gain some steam. This is like mid 2000s. Derrick Rose at Memphis. That's why we call it Rose Series. And I started running dribble drive motion. And to do that, you had to have the 2 point guard system. Vance Wahlberg named his point guards the 1 and the 5 because no one wanted to be labeled the 5. So he labeled them the 4. Again, all about how you frame it, right? So my 1 and 5 were point guards and or rackers. And when I started moving towards drive and space, and I'll talk a little bit about why we did that, is motion. I loved it, that it was conceptual. There was not a lot of rules. We taught through principles, and every possession was going to look different based on my players' choices. Loved that. Felt like I was teaching basketball and not teaching basketball plays. Everybody got a touch. There was a lot of ball movement, a lot of player movement, and there was a lot of things that we could layer and add in. We could, stackables. We could stack some actions in there, and I could incorporate some other things. What I didn't like about it is it didn't have optimal space. As the game started changing from more drive and kick and less cutting and screening, I felt like motion left a little bit to be desired there. And then as an assistant coach teaching motion, our players would come to me and say they feel limited. They feel like they're in a box. They don't have as much freedom as they want. So when I became a head coach, I was searching for the best of both worlds. And I was at a very low pressure job, 21-year-old head coach. You can imagine, like, not a lot of expectations. So I just said, you know what? We're going to run dribble drive. What I loved about that is the spacing, we could prioritize player development. And I also love we were losing a lot in fourth quarters, and I didn't have to say, okay, don't worry about, don't forget all the motion stuff. We got to attack right away. We were building players to always be in attack mindset. So like down eight, fourth quarter, just keep doing what we're doing. We're in constant attack mode. I say all of that to say that is how we shaped drive in space. Is can I take what I love about motion in traditional offense, but modernize it with some dribble drive concepts? Although drive in space is very, very far from dribble drive. I mean, at its very core, maybe it is some drive and kick game, but there's much more to it than that. So I say all of that to say I was playing with a two guard front, and I just moved that system over to drive in space because Rose series puts your two best attackers at the top. And I think against pressure, I know against pressure, what I believe is I want my two best handlers in the action at all times. And I want my two best decision makers, which are usually my rackers, to be the inbounder. And typically, inbounder has to make the decision to inbound the ball. But typically, the ball is going back to that inbounder against a good press anyway for the ball reversal. So rackers, dragons, I actually don't think it matters. I think it depends on what your team looks like. If you have two rackers that you're going to start, I'd put them in the action spots. If you have a more traditional like dragon or a four, and they have a lot of racker capabilities, call it a dragon, call it a racker. It doesn't really matter. They're filling the same role. Um, I just named it two rackers. Long story short, or long story longer. I named it rackers because they were very similar players, so I let their roles be interchangeable. If Tyler and I were the rackers and he was closest to the ball, he was the inbounder, I was the outlet, or vice versa. So we were interchangeable there. That way, maybe Tyler's more of a pass first point guard. Well, he's going to have the ball pass first a lot. If I'm more of like a scoring point guard, I might be the dragon where I'm getting the first crack at Rose series, but we're not always pigeonholed into just doing that to start every possession.
Who inbounded baseline for you guys?
So like on a dead ball, you're saying
Yeah.
it was
Like underneath your own hoop.
dead ball or on a make.
Sorry. So dead ball, but like underneath your own hoop. So
Oh,
like
like baseline out of
foul.
bounds.
Yeah, like a blob. Yeah.
Uh, was going to be one of the rackers because they were just inherently one of our best passers. But in any of our baseline out of bounds stuff, we just did it role based. I would instead of having positions, I would say best passer throws it in. Tyler, you're the best passer. So every time ball goes out of bounds and you're in the game, you throw it in. Best shooter, you're here. Best athlete, you're here. Biggest player, you're here. And so it just was naturally one of our rackers. Could have been the one or could have been the four or the five, whatever you're calling them.
And same thing for sideline inbounds and stuff. Like,
Yep.
yeah.
So if you watch all of our film, doesn't matter where the ball is, the same player is going to inbound the ball as long as they're on the court.
Got it. Okay. And that's same for us as well. We just designate it as the dragon. And so like dragon or two rackers, I think it's just terminology. Agreed. And dragon just designates who's inbounding. Whenever, it's a slower dead ball scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the only difference there is ours were interchangeable. On a made basket, your dragon is
Is
inbounding the
is, is
ball for
inbounding. Yeah.
yeah, and I would do the same thing if I didn't have players that were similar that could not be interchangeable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I've seen teams play really fast having anyone inbound the ball. I think that's less clarity. I think you set yourself up to not race the arcs because am I inbounding? Am I
They're not just putting
racing?
their head down and bolting like a runner or a block.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And with our rackers, sometimes that happened, but I felt like the pro outweighed the con because we don't want our rackers bolting up the floor anyway. Really, they're getting outside the dead zone. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I've seen teams play really fast with only one inbounder. I've seen teams play really fast with five available inbounders. So we just kind of compromised a little bit and had those two roles interchangeable.
Okay. Two arguments against that. Argument number one, I like the dragon role to put your slowest player. Actually, I just got that question on Twitter, X, sorry. is like, okay, you want to play fast. Like, what do you do when you have like slow players? Um, I just say you're the dragon. And this is more so for turnover, live ball turnover, defensive rebound scenarios. They're just going to be last. So I don't want, usually like in a two racker type setup, they're both pretty fast, right? So I want the one that doesn't have the ball to just go and get up the floor. Whereas I really just want to have a place for a slow player to just like trail. So that would be one argument for not going two rackers, but actually having a dragon. So and I play that out with all of our teams. So like our second best attacker fast player is usually our wolf because with that skill set, they're a pretty good on ball defender, right? They're mobile, they're quick, they're fast, they're tough, they're whatever. So they're usually our wolf. So they're usually the one in our wolf we designate they're running the right side of the floor. And so that's the one that we're throwing those hit ahead passes to for them to go get a nine. And so we're gonna play up the right side of the floor because no other team we play locks left anyway. You know what I mean? We're outletting on made shots to the right side, and we're looking to hit ahead to our wolf who goes and can create. So that's the first argument that kind of had multiple subpoints. Here's my second argument. Where are all these teams that have two equal rackers? I've never experienced this. Wow, what a wealth of talent you guys have. I've always had like someone that I absolutely would prefer to have the ball in their hand if I had the choice 100% of the time. So show me the film. I don't show me an NBA team that has two equal rackers. I just don't see it.
I'm
All
trying to
right.
think of an NBA team that has. I mean, we had it.
I believe you. I'm just saying, like, wow.
Yeah, but look, we had it, and we also went to 3 straight Final Fours.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we had talent. And this is good. I mean, this is probably for maybe the next podcast, but the principle of play can stay the same, but you adapt it. Philosophy is not going to change. It's going to take a lot for you to change my philosophy on offense, but to change roles or how we get there. So strategy is 10,000 foot view. Tactics is actually how you implement your strategy. We can play fast with a slow player on the floor. I would also make them the dragon. In fact, at App State, we had a player that was very talented, but just kind of played at her pace. Yeah, like I don't know how fast she is because I never saw her like
Because she
really
never
open
ran
it up.
fast.
Yeah. So I actually made the suggestion is like, why wouldn't she just be the inbounder? She's not going to bolt. Just put her where she's gonna naturally gravitate to anyway. So I actually don't disagree with that. And then yeah, point two, if you want to see that, check out Drive in Space. We got a lot of game film in there. But I would also say this: your second best handler, if they're not a sniper or if they're not, just your second best player, I would put in that position anyway.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Kimba Walker just signed with the Big Three to play 3-on-3 basketball.
Is he 100 years old or
Yeah, at least.
I think he's 100. Yeah.
I mean, I loved Kimba Walker. I love Kimba Walker. Huge fall off very, very quickly. Very interesting there, but I'm excited to see him play again.
I feel like he had like a quick rise and then
Hmm.
a quick fall. I mean, I just remember when I think Kimball Walker, I think the NCAA tournament version of Kimball Walker more than
I mean,
anything.
I'm watching his double step back UConn game winner. Iconic. Beautiful. I think we had a lot of good ones here today.
Yeah, this was good. We did. I mean, we always say we're going to do heavy mailbag and answer all these questions, but I feel like what do we answer three maybe? But I feel like we went really in depth. Thought that was really good, and we talked offense the whole time, which was good. I enjoyed
Ooh,
that.
okay. Well, let's do a defensive mailbag next time. That'll be wonderful. I mean, I'm this like big defensive coach. I'm like this lock left guy, but I still. Why do we love offense so much? Like, I would prefer. I do prefer to teach offense and defense. Like when our teams play great defense, I get so fired up. But I just feel more artistic and creative teaching offense. I don't know why that is.
Defense is way more binary. I think
Yeah.
it's so much more if then or okay, lock the ball, hunt the pass, protect the gap, build the wall. Like there ain't
It
much else
you just
to
have
it.
to grind it. You gotta
Yeah,
grind defensive training. There's not a lot of, like, new things to teach, like, we just have to get better at these things. And
yeah.
so, yeah, like, whereas, like, offense, you can, add a lot of creative layering to it. Well, when they take this away, do this. Whereas defense is just keep taking this away better and more.
I did a film breakdown for one of our members yesterday. It might have been the day before, but my feedback was okay. Like we should be locking the ball right now. We're not. We should be hunting the pass right now. We're not. So just like we got to just get and we're either it's not simple enough. We're not spending enough time on it, or we're just not there yet. Maybe this is just the product of it. Just we got to let the rice cook a little bit and get from year one to year two.
Yeah, I gotta talk we gotta get our friend Edward back on because he just has such good, like, analogies and articulations for this concept. I don't have a good one for it, but, like, what when talking to players or talking to your team, what is it like? What is working about defense like? What's the mindset like? I mean, you say like workman like or like master the boring, but like just like relishing getting incrementally better at the same thing over a long period of time. What is that like? I don't know. Maybe it's like some sort of like martial art or, warrior training because your life depends on, you know, locking shields on a shield wall. I don't know, but you can't get bored with it because then you die. I don't know what the analogy is, but like I feel like that's what getting like the best defensive coaches have that. And like they hammer it day after day after day after day. And I actually don't know if I have the grit to be a great team defensive coach because I just get too distracted with creativity. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you also lean more on the art of coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a master coach has they have acumen in like the science of coaching and the art of coaching, and they can balance those two things. I think you do that right because everything that we do is backed up through measurement and proof of concept. But the coach that usually reaches out to us that says, I'm having trouble with conceptual offense, or I'm having trouble with, these principles or teaching through principles. The next thing that comes out of their mouth is usually, I'm just more of a defensive coach. And it's
Yeah.
just because
That's
it
interesting.
is like, this is you're single tasking on defense. When I'm guarding the ball, I have one job, lock the ball. When I'm, on the jail side, I have one job, protect the gap. And I think more coaches just align to like single task, that is your job. And some, just those coaches tend to struggle with like the nuance of offense where this could happen, like the old classic, it depends.
hmm Okay. Sorry, I got one more question for you. You're a head coach right now of a college team. Do you pick one side of the ball and delegate the other side of the ball to your top assistant, associate head coach?
Hmm. No. I,
Okay.
it's so hard for me to not two-way teach and not look at it as the game of opposites. I might have Tyler. Unfortunately, you'd probably be my lock left coach on staff,
Yeah.
even though you just said you would rather coach offense. Uh,
Well, I'd
I
take it
would,
as long as I get to teach two ways, I
yeah, you're
guess.
gonna have to take it for the team. That's your role. I would have an offensive guy, and here's the thing: you could certainly teach the offense, but no one would teach lock left better. So we would
Yeah.
just have to have you there, and then I would
I
coach
quit.
both. Yeah, I quit.
Okay, interesting. Okay, I feel like my answer to that question is I would designate. Like we would all two-way teach on our staff, but I would designate, and I would give them the defense just because I would want someone to come in so hot with such high energy, and like hold such high standards when we were priming or teaching or improving the defense thing. Um, and I would want to be able to step back and zoom out and evaluate during a period of practice. Um, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of value, at least in having a chunk of practice where you can zoom out and then come in and hammer this thing. So whether it be offense, defense, some transition, shooting, player development, rebounding, like design something where you can step back, even when you know that assistant is not teaching as well as you would. it's going to help your team. It's going to help you, and you can come in and clean up. A lot of times, the highest moments of our practices and trainings are when I come in after an assistant coach has just finished a progression and identify the thing, the autopsy of that progression to the team. So create that space for yourself either way.
Yeah, I actually had a consulting call with a college coach this morning, and he was saying the same thing. He said he feels he's turning over his skill development sessions to his assistants, and he feels really weird because he's not in there setting the tone, high energy. And he
Hmm.
says his assistants aren't doing it as good as he would
Hmm.
necessarily, but they're getting better. And I told him this: it's a dimmer switch. Like there's two things, the two challenges of being a head coach. If you are a head coach listening, you know this. If you're an assistant coach, this is what you're going to feel like when you get your opportunity. Number one is you're constantly fighting human nature to be mediocre, and you're having, all your players are going to want to fall back to what's comfortable, what's mediocre, and you got to holding players to a standard every single day, all day, is your job, and it is exhausting. The second thing that is exhausting is setting the tone every day. Your leaders, your assistants could set the tone, and if you walk in with a negative tone, it's all going to go away really, really quickly because the team's going to take your tone. So those two things exhaust you, but it's on a dimmer switch, like everything is. Like you don't. I actually think it's good that he's not the tone setter right now, because if you are that person 365, I think it loses its luster a little bit. So in practice, it's exhausting to get through a 2-hour practice when you are the lead coach in every single segment.
Exhausting, and you're worse. You're worse in each segment when you lead it. So I mean, I would take Mark at 100% for 75% of the practice, then Mark at 75% for 100% of the practice.
Yeah, same thing. That's why even our best players get some time on the bench, because it's hard to be out there the entire time and be on.
Bonus time. That was overtime.
Yeah, that was overtime. Yeah, this was good. Hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Give us a rating, give us a share, give us a like on YouTube, and we'll see you next time. Stay savvy.
Stays out.